Yeah, so this is a fair use from the Act of 1976. Disclaimer, Section 107, under critical and teaching and scholarship and educational purposes, research. I am not making any money off this. This is fair use, fair use. I will give all praises, all honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Kahaloyim Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rakhahakwadash. I'd like to give double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners, who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom, to you sisters, you Chwatim, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. This your brother Aram Yahawada with the lesson.
Very good to meet you, brother. Nice to meet you, man. The park employees say y'all are doing like a little protest. Oh, no, there's no protest. I guess they just don't like what y'all are doing. Oh, they don't like when it's wasteland? I'm just here, portraying how it could have been. These are mine right here. I got them earlier today at the auction. What was your name? Jordan? Can I talk to you? I can't do an interview. No, I was just going to ask if you want to take a laugh. The tables have turned, my brother. Shoot. Very good to meet you, brother. Nice to meet you, man. The park employees say y'all are doing like a little protest. Oh, no, there's no protest. I guess they just don't like what y'all are doing. Oh, they don't like when it's wasteland? I'm just here, portraying how it could have been. These are mine right here. I got them earlier today at the auction. What was your name? Jordan? Can I talk to you? I can't do an interview. No, I was just going to ask if you want to take a laugh. The tables have turned, my brother.
Yeah. This is Isaiah chapter 20. And as you can see right here, it says prophesied against Egypt and Ethiopia, right? Which the modern day Egypt is America spiritually, right? So this is going to be, even though it was an event that already happened, it's befitting to you being the spiritual Egypt is why I'm going to read this, because it's showing you that the Lord he's consistent, but at the same time of being consistent, he has a sense of humor, right? Because that is a sign of your destruction, ultimately. What that young brother did, and having those two Edomites in chains, and then even when he said at the end to the other brother, he said, hey, it's changing, right? The roles are changing. The situation, it ain't what it used to be. And that's like an example. Watch right here. It says in the year that Tartan, Slacky, if I'm saying it wrong, Tartan came unto Ashdod, right? And who's in Ashdod as of today? Amalek, right? When Shargan or Sargon, the king of Assyria, sent him, right? And fought against what? Ashdod, right? Which today we say that you're spiritual, you're also known as spiritual, Assyrians, but in this, you wouldn't represent the spiritual Assyrians. They would be more like Russia, right? because the Lord said he's going to set them against thee, right? Russia, Iran, right? Persia, right? Those are the two main players that the Lord is going to send against, that land of Ashdod, right? But not to get me wrong, not saying that this already didn't happen, but just putting it as far as spiritually of what's going on today, right? And why I'm reading this, and it actually fits you because you're in that land. And the Lord is going to raise up someone to come against that land of Ashdod. And we know by process of elimination, dealing with Ezekiel 38, that it has to be Russia, right? Rosh, right? Which is chief. Shar, meaning prince. So Rashar or Rashar or Rasha, right? Has to be that guy. And his thing is to the Lord said to be a guard unto Persia, which is Iran, right? And it says, at that same time spake Yahweh, right? Bahasham Yahushai by Isaiah, the son of Amos, saying, go and loose the shoe go and loose the sackcloth, Salakia, of thy loins, right? Take your sackcloth off, garment off of you. Sackcloth of thy loins, and put off thy shoe from off thy foot, right? And he did so, walking naked and barefoot. Now, so this is Psalms chapter 60, verse 8. It says, Moab, right, which is the so-called Chinese, is my washpot over Edom, right? You self-proclaimed so-called white man, started with Amalek, right? The tiny tops over there in the land, committing G-side, right? All over the world, right? Trying to get the blessing, right? He wants to have the land from the Red Sea to the Euphrates now. So now he's about to, covet fields and take them by violence, right? By violence. Not to mention they want to push these 15-minute cities throughout the planet, right? And that's like an uncharted land at this point. So this war with Iran has more than one purpose. It's multi-faceted purpose, right? Because that Middle East is an uncharted land, so they want to push forth the sixth industrial complex, right? And technocracy. In order for technocracy to rule the world, you have to tap into that uncharted land, and then you have to be able to put those 15-minute cities and all that stuff in that big wide desert where and then with them already bombing it to hell, you've already committed demolition. That's demolition. And then you just have to build up. Go in there and build it up and make sure that it's the Internet of all things, right? And then they can actually run that thing from the Red Sea to the Euphrates, which entails the blessing, so to speak, right? Now they could say, they have the blessing. No, this is Israel from this land to this land, or however they may do it. But it's multifaceted. And then, of course, the straits is blocked. And now there's, ships, tankers headed to the U.S. to get oil to the U.S. and to Venezuela, which Trump has control over Venezuela. And, of course, he's the president of the United States. So it's multifaceted of what you're doing. But see, over Edom, right, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, will I cast out my shoe. Now notice he told Isaiah to take off his shoe when it came to Edom. Right? Right? And it says the Philistines, right? And notice this is so Edom, and then they got the Philistines right back to back. Triumph thou because of me. It says, who will bring me into the strong city, right? You got the greatest military, you're doing this, you're doing that, right? And this is Yahweh Shai. Well, ultimately it's Yahweh, but it's going to be Yahweh Shai who the Lord sends for that judgment, that great judgment. Who will lead me into Edom, right? And that's really to what? To put forth what? Punishment unto you, right? Who will bring me into the fortress city? Who will bring me victory over Edom? See, the Lord's going to destroy you, right? So even right here, it says Zechariah chapter 9, verse 6, it says, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. So who's in Ashdod right now? It's a chief city, a port city in Israel. Who's there right now? Right? And I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. Right? Right? And then right here it says a foreigner, right? Which that's what you are. You're not really of that land. But notice that it's bringing up Ashdod and the Philistines. It says foreigners will occupy the city of Ashdod, right? Which that's you. You're in the city of Ashdod right now, and you don't belong there. You're a foreigner. And I will destroy the pride of the Philistines. Yeah, so like the Lord said, what? He set up the Assyrians. It says the Sargon, the king of Assyria, and sent him and fought against what? Who? Ashdod, and what? And took it, right? Cut them off, destroyed them, right? Even right here, when you got the NLT, says in the year when the king of Sargon of Assyria sent his commander in the chief, right? Chief, going to it's gotta represent that, bro, right? Russia is what? Chief, Rosh, chief, prince, right? To capture what? The Philistine city of what? Of Ashdod. So, but you stay in Ashdod now, right? You're running all of that, Tel Aviv and all that. You're running the port cities right there in Israel. That's you now, right? A bastard dwells in Ashdod right now. Right? It says, at the same time, spake Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, by Isaiah, the son of Amos, go and loose the sackcloth from off thy loins and put off thy shoe, right? Cast thy shoe at Edom, right? And he did so, walking naked and barefoot, right? Let's see if this shows anything. It's a sandal, but it says the same thing. Let's go to verse 3. Isaiah 20:3. And Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, said, like as my servant Isaiah, right? He have walked naked and barefoot 3 years for a sign, right? So that young Jake having those Edomites and those chains, what you don't understand is that's a sign. The Lord used to have the prophets do certain things as a sign, a demonstration, so everyone can see. See, and now you don't have to do like what Isaiah did. He did it for 3 years. You could literally just do a video like what was happening. It literally it was thousands, right? Thousands and thousands of people seen it, and maybe millions have watched it, right? But thousands of people put thumbs up on it, right? Over thousands and thousands, so millions of views all at one time, just from one video. So you don't got to do the same thing, but that's a sign. It's a sign, whether you understand it or not. A sign and a wonder upon Egypt. And it's another thing that an Edomite is. He's what? He's spiritually what? Egypt. That's America. So you got Amalek over there in the land of Ashdod, faking and fraudulating, right? And then you got America, which is Egypt, and upon Ethiopia, right? And watch this. It says, so then said Yahweh, Basham Yahushai, my servant Isaiah has been walking around naked and barefooted at least 3 years. This is a sign, a symbol of the terrible trouble I will bring upon what? Egypt, which is America, right? Spiritually, America is also known as Egypt, right along with being Babylon and Assyria, right? But at this point, we're just going to point out the part of it being what? Egypt, right? Because we got to let it, you got to validate it, right? You know what I'm saying? So, and what? And Ethiopia, right? Which is that land of, basically, it's Ashdod, right? We already seen that. It says, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians prisoners, right? And it's going to come a time that you Edomites here in America are going to go be led away prisoners, captives, right? And the Ethiopians, which this is not talking about the Ethiopians, because this is talking about that land of Ashdod. But who stays in Ashdod now? Which is talking about Amalek. Amalek, right? The American Edomite, which is Egypt, and the modern day Ashdod or Ethiopian would be the people over there in the state of Israel, right? Because that's what they did. They're the bastard that dwells in Ashdod, right? And so they're going what? Captives, right? So prisoners, which is slavery, and then in captive, which is basically slavery. It says young and old, naked and barefooted, even with their buttocks uncovered, to what? The shame of what? Of Egypt. And who's gonna have the biggest shame? America, right? When 200 million missiles hit this place, and it be left as an example of how you should not run your country, how you should not disobey the laws of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and how you should definitely not put your hands on the Lord's elect. And then definitely don't think that you could create a space force that you could fight against Yahweh Shai. Those are things you just do not. Oh wait, not to mention you try to change the ordinance of the land, right? Try to change times, ordinance. Oh, not to mention you added and took from the book, and that in itself is why you cannot be forgiven. This is what people do not realize about you Edomites, right? When you add and took from the book, when you declared that the Son of the Most High is a self-proclaimed so-called white man, right? And all the angels and all the other things and all the things that you've done, that is blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. That's the one sin that you cannot be forgiven for. So all these people are forgetting about that, you know? But it says, for the king of Assyria will take away Egypt and Ethiopian, which Egypt basically meaning America, Ethiopian basically meaning Ashdod, right? Which that's where bastard dwells in Ashdod, as prisoners, right? Slaves, and he will make them walk naked and barefooted, both young and old, with their buttocks bared, to be shame to the shame of what? Of Egypt, which is America, right? I think I got a little bit more. Yeah, right? Because there it goes. Going back into it, saying the Philistines. I'm going to read this one first, and then I'll go to this one. Then the what? The Philistine, or Ashdod, right, will be thrown into panic, right? And wait till all these things really start taking place. They're gonna be thrown into panic because they're gonna realize, man, the prophecy of the Lord is actually coming true. These things are actually happening. I can't put this off any longer. There ain't no more hiding. Besides going into the elite's gonna go into their bunkers, right? World War III is gonna commence. Missiles are gonna be shot. There's going to be no more lies in the land. No more bastard dwelling in the land. Right? And the Lord's going to build it back up. Yahweh Shai is going to take over that land. Give it back to King David. Right? Give it back to the true Israelites, the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, who real identity are the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? And that's going to send you into a panic For they counted on the power of what? Of Ethiopia. They counted on that, was it the Golden Dome? They counted on, they had all the money. They're the trillionaires, they're the billionaires. They have this, they have that, they have the technocracy, they have the microchip, everything. They're counting on that power. They got America to back them up. Yes, we're sure gonna succeed at the end. We're gonna be able to have all these things, right? And boasted in their allies. Ooh, you can't make this up. What? And they boasted in their allies, Egypt, which is America, man. Come on now. But you're still gonna lose. You're still going to lose. It says, and they shall be afraid and ashamed of what? Of Ethiopia, which is basically going back to it being Ashdod. And people are ashamed of it. They're afraid to have their whole thing mingled with you. That's why France and Spain, they say, we don't want nothing to do with them. You know what I'm saying? We don't want nothing to do with trying to invade Iran. We don't want nothing to do with them doing whatever they doing. I don't want nothing to do with that. Right? Right? Their expectations and of of Egypt, their glory, right? Because that's the American military was supposed to be the extra oomph that you needed. You got the Golden Dome, y'all billionaires. You got the. Oh wait, let's not forget. You're the bankers. You're not just bankers. You're the World Bank. You control both sides of a war. If any nation needs to, not even if it's war, if they want to build infrastructure, they need to come to you to get a loan to build up their country. They got to go to the World Bank, and you control all of it. And somehow you're still never going to make it. You're going to fail miserably. You know? And that's because the Lord said he's going to destroy you. Right? So with all that, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha HaKodash. I'd like to give double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners whose phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold, Shalom. To your sisters, your Chwatim, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence and a Baba Ball. Kwame Yasharala, and that was just a sign of things to come.